If you are planning to buy property in 2026, this video could save you from making a decision that ruins you financially for decades. There are parts of the UK right now that are not just struggling or going through a temporary downturn, they are collapsing in slow motion, and anyone buying property there is not catching a bargain, they are catching a falling knife. These are places where the numbers no longer lie, where the data is brutal, and where recovery is no longer a realistic scenario. What you are about to hear is not opinion or pessimism, it is the outcome of hard evidence coming from migration data, employment figures, local government finances, and real transaction prices. To identify these danger zones, analysts look to Office for National Statistics, population flows, land registry price movements, Department for Work and Pensions unemployment data, council budget statements, and bankruptcy filings. Across all this data, the same pattern kept repeating. People are leaving in large numbers, jobs are disappearing faster than they can be replaced, councils are running out of money to deliver basic services, and property prices are falling with no sign of stabilizing. These are not cyclical declines, they are structural failures. One of the most shocking examples is Birmingham. This is the UK's second largest city, a place that for decades was seen as a safe long-term bet simply because of its size. That assumption is now dangerously outdated. Birmingham City Council effectively declared bankruptcy in 2023 with a deficit of around £760 million. Instead of improving, the situation has worsened dramatically. By 2026, that hole has grown to an estimated £1.2 billion. The council is now selling off assets just to keep the lights on, including parts of the Birmingham Museum and Art Gallery collection, simply to pay staff wages. The impact on property has been devastating. Average house prices in Birmingham are down around 42% from their 2022 peak. A home that sold for £300,000 just a few years ago now struggles to sell for £170,000, if it sells at all. The average time a property sits on the market has ballooned to well over a year. Estate agents are shutting offices every month, and major firms that once pushed Birmingham as an investment hotspot have quietly exited the city altogether. Employment is at the heart of this collapse. Jaguar Land Rover, the city's largest private employer, announced around 12,000 redundancies, and those job losses ripple through suppliers, contractors, and local services. By the end of 2025, unemployment had reached around 14%, one of the highest rates in the entire UK outside Northern Ireland. For a major city, that level of joblessness is catastrophic. What truly poisoned Birmingham's future was the aftermath of the 2022 Commonwealth Games. The city spent around £2.8 billion it simply did not have, betting everything on regeneration that never arrived. The developments around Perry Bar are the clearest symbol of this failure. Vast new housing blocks sit barely 40% occupied. The former Athletes' Village was converted into residential housing, but demand never materialized. Hundreds of high-end flats remain empty because the jobs that would support those incomes no longer exist. As the council runs out of money, the city itself is literally being switched off. Street lighting is reduced. Bin collections are cut back to monthly in some areas. Libraries, swimming pools, and community centers are closing permanently. This triggers a vicious cycle where declining services push more residents to leave, which reduces tax revenue, forcing even deeper cuts. Net migration out of Birmingham now runs at tens of thousands every year, and it is not retirees leaving. It is young professionals and working-age families moving to cities like Manchester, Leeds, and Bristol. Crime has surged alongside service collapse. Knife crime has risen sharply, car theft has exploded, and police response times have deteriorated to the point where many non-emergency calls are effectively ignored. Investors have noticed. Buy-to-let mortgage applications have collapsed. London cash buyers have vanished, and even overseas investors who once snapped up anything in Birmingham will not touch it now. HS2 was meant to be the lifeline, but with major sections cancelled, the city is left with disruption and debt, not regeneration. Buying property in Birmingham today is not contrarian thinking. It is stepping into a city in managed decline. Aberdeen tells a different story, but ends in the same place. Once the oil capital of Europe and one of the wealthiest cities in the UK, Aberdeen is now the clearest example of what happens when an economy depends on a single industry that disappears. Property prices there have fallen by more than 50% from their peak, the steepest decline anywhere in the country, and there is still no bottom in sight. The North Sea oil industry is not shrinking, It is dying. Major players have pulled out. Tens of thousands of high-paid jobs have vanished since 2014, and tens of thousands more are expected to go as platforms are decommissioned. These were not low-income roles. The average salary was around £78,000. That spending power has left the city permanently. Aberdeen city centre reflects this collapse. Union Street, once the city's pride, is now more than half empty. Former oil company headquarters sit abandoned or are being converted into student accommodation that nobody needs because even the universities are shrinking as young people leave. Properties now take well over a year and a half to sell on average, with many sitting unsold for multiple years. Sellers routinely accept offers 40% below asking just to escape. The rental market collapsed first, and when it went, it dragged everything else down with it. Executive homes that once rented for thousands a month suddenly had no tenants at any price. Entire streets flooded the sales market at the same time, crushing values further. Attempts to reinvent Aberdeen as a renewable energy hub have largely failed, with companies choosing larger, better connected cities instead. The population is aging rapidly, schools are closing, birth rates are falling, and the housing stock no longer matches the city's future. Large executive homes built for oil wealth now have no natural buyers. That demand is gone for good. Middlesbrough represents a different kind of danger. On paper, it looks cheap. In reality, it is a trap. Houses selling for £25,000 are not bargains when there is no functioning market to sell them into later. Unemployment remains entrenched at levels that would be considered a crisis anywhere else, with youth unemployment approaching 40%. The industries that once supported the town vanished decades ago, and nothing meaningful replaced them. Property prices have not fallen in Middlesbrough. They have become irrelevant. Entire streets trade for less than a parking space in London, but estate agents often refuse to list them because there are no buyers. Crime rates are among the highest in England. Drug deaths are far above the national average, and life expectancy is significantly lower than elsewhere in the UK. The town centre is hollowed out. Education outcomes are dire. Council services barely function, and banks increasingly refuse to lend in many postcodes. Buying property, there is not investing. It is taking on a long-term liability in a town stuck in generational decline. Then there is Dover, a place that was meant to thrive after Brexit, and instead became one of its biggest casualties. Property prices have fallen sharply, freight traffic through the port has collapsed, tourism has dried up, and the town has become synonymous with congestion, disruption, and political tension. Operation Brock has effectively turned the motorway into a permanent lorry park, making daily life miserable and pushing residents out. Population decline in Dover has been among the fastest in the country. Services are closing, the council is surviving on emergency funding, and when that support ends, further collapse is inevitable. Even geography is working against the town as coastal erosion accelerates and insurers quietly withdraw coverage from at-risk areas. Buying property, there is not just betting against the market, it is betting against long-term viability itself. What links these places is not bad luck. It is a combination of failed industries, accelerating population loss, council financial collapse, and the absence of any credible regeneration plan. While parts of the UK continue to hold value due to jobs, demand, and investment, these areas are experiencing something closer to depression-level decline. For anyone considering property in 2026, the message is simple and uncomfortable. This is not a market where every cheap price is an opportunity. Some prices are low because the future has already left. These are not dips to buy. They are warnings to stay away. If you already own property in places like this, the hard truth is that waiting rarely helps. Managed decline does not reverse overnight, and in many cases, it does not reverse at all. The UK property market is no longer one market. It is splitting into places with a future and places without one. Understanding that difference is what separates smart decisions from disastrous ones. If you found this breakdown useful and want more honest, data-driven insights into what's really happening across the UK, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next update.